Hello, everybody. My name is Olivia Richardson with Senior Marketing Specialist, and today I have the absolute honor of interviewing one of my best friends in the industry and one of the greatest guys out there, Mr. Bill Correa, who is the Vice President of Partner Engagement at Integrity. So welcome, Bill. Again, I know that's not necessarily a new title for you, but you've worn so many different hats in this industry, from the distribution side and now working alongside the greatest minds in our industry at Integrity. So I appreciate you being on here today because, like I said before we started this, anytime I get you on a microphone, I know good content's going to happen. So thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, well, I'm excited about it, Olivia. I have grown up in this business. I was 23 years old when I started doing it. And for some reason or another, I still continue to be hanging around Medicare and senior market distribution because it's a lot of fun. So you didn't have to twist my arm too hard to see if I could come on and talk Medicare shop with you, but that's for sure.
I love it. One of these days, we'll have to get our origin stories about how we fell into this market. But one thing I am really excited to talk to you about, it's something that from way back in your Nice Lawson Fleming days, and of course, working alongside you now with Integrity, something I know you've always been incredibly passionate about is finding opportunity for agents, especially opportunity that's completely untapped. And I know 100% one of the most untapped markets we have in this industry is going to be the dual special needs group, which means that they are both Medicare and Medicaid eligible. In fact, we've worked, as far as I've been doing this for 2013. I have been working with carriers who are just desperate. They say we have more opportunity than we do agents. And that is not a drum that they've quit beating yet. And so even though the dual SNP market has had, I'd say, maybe a slow start, we're actually starting to see a lot of agents pick up traction in this area. And that's really, you've been really hands-on, first person on deck talking about this stuff.
Yeah, well, you're not wrong about the fact that the carriers beat that drum all the time. And there's a reason for it. And the reason for it is they're right. And I go back to DSNP. I go all the way back to 2009 with the Evercare product with United Healthcare, where I didn't even understand what Medicaid was. I didn't understand how it worked. And I was like, what is this DSNP thing they're talking to me about? And there was a lady out of the Philadelphia office with United, and she taught it to me. I went around Western Pennsylvania, Eastern Pennsylvania, Jersey, New York, Maryland, and did training sessions with her. And it wasn't even so much for me, this is how I can help agents make more money. It was about, this is a way that you can really impact somebody's life in a positive way, and learning about the value that a DSNP product offers a consumer, taking them from a very fractured healthcare delivery system between original Medicare and Medicaid, which don't communicate very well to each other, and putting them on an integrated DSNP plan. It brings a level of mission to the work that is great. And I've said to more people than I can possibly tell you, Olivia, that you can only, as a professional, be motivated by making money for so long. Because either you get tired of it, or you've made so much that you're like, okay, I don't need to make any more. Right. But the agents that are truly successful long term are the ones that can continue to increase their earning power at the same time feeling great about what they're doing. But circling back to what you said about the insurance companies and saying so much opportunity in the DSNP space.
Yeah.
Here's two quick numbers that hopefully the folks that are watching today hear very clearly and they understand what the opportunity is. So this is some cool stuff that I got from the Kaiser Family Foundation website, and they've got a lot of really great intel and data on there. But this is super simple. As of 2022 data, 92% of dual eligible individuals, so people who actively had Medicare and Medicaid, 92% of them lived in a county where a DSNP product was available. Okay. Only 30% of them were on a DSNP. So breaking that down, because I like to give analogies to people. I like to help try to visualize numbers for impact.
Please.
That means that if you walk into a room okay, with 100 people who have Medicare and Medicaid, only 33 of them have a D-SNP product. The other 66 are still hanging around with original Medicare and Medicaid. So that's when the insurance carrier folks talk about there's all this opportunity in the D-SNP space, they are not wrong.
So tell me this. I know a lot of agents who we work with, they have certain red flags that come up. One of them being TRICARE, one of them, being things. Some of them are correct. Some of them are incredibly misleading. Agents who see Medicaid and say, oh, I can't help them, red flag. What can you tell them that could say, absolutely not? You need to at least educate these people about Medicare Advantage plans and what can they do for those at-risk clientele?
Yeah. Well, the first, and I've been dealing with objections over why not sell D-SNP for a very long time. And usually the first objection that comes up from an agent, I'm sure that, you and your team in Missouri have heard this many, many times, is the business doesn't stay on the books. That an agent will not even get to the, I don't know that I know enough, or I don't know that I want to learn how all this works. I've just heard that someone's on a plan, they're off in 90 days. That is a falsehood. It may have been true in 2010. Okay. It may have been true in 2010, but it isn't true now. And that's for a couple reasons. The biggest reason is that the insurance companies figured out that in order to help maintain membership on D-SNP plans, they needed to engage with them with a lot of frequency. So most of your major companies that operate in the D-SNP space, United, Aetna, Humana, WellCare, just go down the list. Most of those companies have a very regimented, orchestrated outreach team that reaches out to their D-SNP members on effective date, 15 days in, 30 days in, 45 days in, and the whole intentionality around it is, if you get a member to use their benefits, they, as quickly as possible, being on the plan, they will see value. If they see value, they will ignore the next person who calls them, emails them, texts them, comes up to them at a food bank, and they'll say, no, I'm good. I'm on this Aetna plan now, and it's great because I was able to go and get my healthy food at such and such location, or I, put in an OTC order and I'm really glad that it's working out, or I just got 4 teeth replaced at my dentist. Right. That's the biggest reason why persistency is so much better. Now, is persistency in the D-SNP market, is it less than the regular MAPD market? Yeah, it is. It is. But we're talking about average persistency rate on an MA plan. And this is data that actually just went through as part of another project. Average persistency rate on an MA plan is generally about 3.5 years.
Interesting.
Average persistency rate on a D-SNP product is 3.
Very interesting. Yeah.
And if you're an agent that is a love them and leave them type agent, that you sign them up and you never talk to them again, your persistency rate is going to be bad. If you're doing any sort of member outreach, though, the D-SNP market persistency is not substantively different than regular MAPD.
I would say, though, to your point, the agents who are the love them, the leave them's, they'll call me if they need something. I don't think that persistency is unique to just the D-SNP. That's with any product. If you are not involved in that, if your clients are not utilizing the plan, the loyalty to the plan and the loyalty to you is going to be much lower. The D-SNP might be magnified by that based on those stats that you're saying, but that's not something that's unique to just the D-SNP industry and the D-SNP market.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, and I think the only difference is that there are some agents in our business that with their regular conventional MAPD clients that they will talk to them or do a plan review in AEP.
Yeah.
And then they may not reach out again until September because they're like, okay, I think you're good. If you got a problem, you'll call me. That doesn't work in the D-SNP space. It doesn't. So, but I think your point is correct, is that agents who would have persistency problems on DSNP are probably the same agents who'd have persistency problems with the regular block of business. But, so that's the first misconception it keeps some agents from being involved in that market. I think the other is that agents, as a general rule, and this isn't unique to DSNP, like if we think about agents who don't sell hospital indemnity plans, or agents who don't offer cancer coverage to their policyholders, or they don't suggest life insurance to their members, whether Medicare Advantage or Medicare Supplement, outside of AEP. A lot of agents don't suggest products outside of their core business line because they just don't feel like they know enough, and they don't want to start down a path on something they don't feel like they have expertise.
Sure.
And I get that. Like, if I was in a sales scenario, would I be talking to someone about a variable IUL product? No. Why not? Because I don't know anything about it.
Makes sense.
No one wants to look dumb because they feel like looking dumb on this other sale will translate into a loss of confidence on the product you've already sold them. But
sure,
the DSNP product in and of itself is actually easier to sell. That's the first thing. Like, you're not, like, think about all the things that you deal with on a Medicare Advantage plan discussion. Talk about premium. Well, guess what? DSNP members aren't paying a premium.
Right.
You talk about co-pays at the doctor, co-pays at the hospital, co-pays for durable medical equipment. Guess what? There aren't any of those either. Co-pays on medical. Guess what? Or on drug. There are no co-pays on drug. So you take all of that and you move it aside, and you're talking about, value-added benefits. So that makes it an easier discussion. But a lot of agents are like, well, I don't know whether or not someone would qualify. That was a bigger issue. Like, this may be my old man moment of the session today, Olivia. Like, back in the day, you kind of needed to know, like, okay, this client has a blue card. And the blue card means they're on this level of Medicaid. But if they have the red card, they're great. Like, all the agents need to do is literally go to any of the carrier websites or call the carrier broker service number and give a couple pieces of information, and they'll tell them they're a full benefit dual eligible. You should enroll them. They are a specialized low income Medicare beneficiary, not appropriate. Like, it's really a quick call. But a lot of agents don't realize that. They think there's a whole level of financial analysis that needs to happen in order to understand whether someone's qualified.
It's almost like it's too easy now. Like, there's something that has to be off because this just is too easy. Fish in a barrel. This something I have to be missing something. So let me ask you this. And again, I'm going off script. I'm asking all these questions. So from your perspective, whenever you're working with agents, talking about this yourselves, a lot of agents will say, I don't want to touch it because I don't want to mess anything up. Like, I'd rather leave them alone and not give them this benefit than mess up anything that they have currently. So in my experience, the worst case scenario if you enroll somebody onto a dual SNP plan and it's an HMO plan is that providers, you didn't check providers, they no longer maybe have access to that provider, though few and far in between, because if it's a DSNP plan, they check those providers, but is a possibility, have seen it. Other than that, I can't think of something that could negatively affect a person's healthcare by being enrolled onto these plans. Have you seen anything different? Like, worst case scenario, what would that even look like?
Worst case scenario, you enroll someone onto a DSNP product and, they don't like it, and a month later they jump out and they're back on original Medicare and Medicaid where they were before. But it's interesting, the provider subject. I've had that come up with agents before, and I've said, well, what do you do when you're doing a normal Medicare Advantage appointment? I said, do you look up in the provider directory and see if Dr. Bob or Dr. Jessica is part of the network? And they're like, well, of course I do. I said, okay, well, you do the same thing on a DSNP. And what's super cool about DSNP product, and this is something that people don't focus on a whole lot, but it's difficult to establish this as, kind of like a numerical value. Like, if you look at a DSNP plan, it's like, oh, they got $4,500 in comprehensive dental. That's empirical. Like, you can see what that number is. What is more difficult to do is to understand how many more providers a dual eligible has access to on a
Mm-hmm.
DSNP product that they do not have access to through Medicare and Medicaid.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is that the carriers very smartly, um, when they contract providers, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, get the providers to sign a universal contract, which means you are going to accept our members as in-network consumers for MAPD as well as for DSNP. And because of that, consumers who enroll in a DSNP plan generally have a far broader group
Mm-hmm.
of doctors and specialists that they can see,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the very tight group that accepts original Medicare and Medicaid, because Medicaid pays even less
Mm-hmm.
than original Medicare does. So, there obviously are far less doctors that take Medicaid reimbursement, but you get someone who's going from just Medicare and Medicaid onto a DSNP plan, their range of doctors and specialists they can see is far broader, giving them more access to care, which is fantastic.
That is amazing. Again, so not only, again, we've talked about the income opportunity, the commissions pay the exact same. Carriers are desperate for agents to be in those areas because these are hot plans that need the help. But you're helping people get things like, again, access to more medicines or over the counter medications, paying oftentimes for their cell phone bills, paying for gas in their vehicles. A lot of times you're giving them access for something and not hurting them in a way that a lot of agents I think are afraid of. So obviously the good that you do in this world, and what you do with these clients, obviously this is a home run product. Let me ask you this, return of investment wise, we've kind of talked about how this book of business, in order to retain that book of business, you do need to be more involved, you need to be in there a little bit more. What's the return of investment look like on this? Is this market truly that much more of a labor intensive enrollment compared to the non-dual eligible people?
I would say this. I think about business in terms of opportunity cost.
Mhm.
So one thing that, and I know that you and the team in Missouri talk to agents about all the time, is how do you keep your pipeline full in terms of prospects? How do
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's going to Lead Center and buying leads there. Sometimes it's doing a direct mail campaign. There's multiple ways you can spend money to generate leads.
Sure.
To me, the best lead you can have is one that didn't cost you anything. And of course, I'm talking about referrals. And I
Mhm.
know that's old school insurance stuff, but
Works.
it does work. And the consumer you get through a referral is way more persistent than a consumer that you have no connection to, except for the fact they sent a little green piece of paper back in the
Yeah.
mailbox to you, and then you called them.
And then they don't even know who you are and why you're calling.
Yeah, that's true. They try to deny. That's not my signature. That I never did that.
I've never seen it for my life.
I've had that many times. But the thing I've said to folks about the DSNP market is
Mhm.
it is far more referral heavy than your conventional MAPD market. And I think a lot of the reason for that, if we think about a lot of Medicaid consumers,
Mhm.
a lot of times they're potentially living in low income housing.
Mhm.
They're seeking services at food banks or food pantries, same places. They are going to centers of worship that are often very similar.
Mhm.
There is a lot more interaction inside of the low income community than there would be for Larry and Sarah Smith who live in a farm in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
Okay.
great point.
So when you do something so great for someone in helping them find a DSNP product, there are so
Sure.
many more touch points that consumer has to be able to tell somebody about it.
Yeah.
Um, the other thing that I would say is when I was at Neishloss and Fleming, there were a lot of times where we would look at our production board of, okay, who are our highest producing agents month in, month out?
Mhm.
And I was having a discussion with one of our sales directors, and the conversation was around DSNP. And I said, have you noticed something about our top 25 agents, month in, month out, in April,
Mhm.
May, June, July, August? And they're like, I don't know. What's the common thread? I said, like 70% of those people are heavily involved in the DSNP market. And they're like, really? I said, yeah, here are the numbers. So, we used to say to agents who were leery about engaging in the low income market, that do you realize because so many people are like, what do I got to do to be a top producer? How do I go from writing 50 apps a year to 100 or from 100 to 200? And the first answer is, if you are not writing dual special needs plans, if you are not looking to help in the low income community, your chances of getting to the top of the leaderboard are very low. Beyond that, you would have to sink so much money into lead generation that it almost starts to become unprofitable to do it. And that's beyond what I talked about at the outset, Olivia, around being able to feel pride in your work and feel like you're making a difference. But that's a big piece of it too.
So those agents who are producing, that at the high of your leaderboards, what are they doing to become a voice or to gain the attention of those DSNP eligibles? What are they doing that other agents aren't?
Well, the one thing that is pretty interesting is that agents that are successful, I mean, anyone can write consumers who are on Medicare and Medicaid, because invariably you will just find these individuals here or there. If you want to write volume of DSNP business, you need to be engaged in community-based marketing.
Love that.
That is without question the path to success in terms of creating volume. Part of that is because what we found is that dual eligible consumers are less likely to respond to traditional media. So they're less likely to respond to direct mail leads. They're less likely to respond to Facebook ads. They're less likely to respond to any number of the things that agents typically are engaged in to try to build their prospect pipeline. The agents who are successful in building volume in the DSNP community, they are doing things like provider-based marketing. One of the most successful DSNP agents I have ever worked with in my entire career is a gentleman up in Massachusetts, and he figured out very early on that Massachusetts Medicaid had a really kind of bad benefit, really low benefit for dental. And he looked at the DSNP products that were available to him in Massachusetts, and he picked one from United Healthcare and said, wow, imagine if I could tell someone, and I think at the time the benefit was like $2,500 in comprehensive dental, and the state Medicaid offered $1,000. But wow, wouldn't it be great if I could just tell someone that as they're going into the dentist, like, hey, Medicaid's only going to pay $1,000 for you. This plan will pay $2,500. That'll be great. So this agent started going around and talking to dentists, because the dentists knew who are the consumers that need extensive dental work, but they can't pay for it because Medicaid won't cover more than $1,000. And by building partnerships with these dentists, this agent became one of our top 5 salespeople, like virtually overnight.
Incredible.
So provider-based marketing is a really key way to do that. Doing events at food banks, at food pantries, at housing buildings, retail program marketing, like the Walmart program, is another good way to do that. But agents who want to be successful, they have to be out in the community, because traditional lead generation doesn't generate the return with the low-income community the way people think it should.
And I think too, to add to that, the consistency of that, we've worked with agents who they go in the same, housing complex each month, they go in the same food bank each month, and they build those relationships with the people who work there, but they grow a relationship with the clientele, and they don't have to do anything. Their top referral partners are dragging people to their booth saying, you need to talk to Miss Olivia, you need to talk to Mr. Bill, this is how they help me. So it's almost just like, you might as well like hire them for your agency, because they're bringing you the people every single time, because it is such wonderful work that they're doing, and this is a clientele that needs and is utilizing those benefits. So they do a lot of that legwork for you. I think that's excellent advice. Now, if an agent is saying they're listening to us, they're like, this is just the kick in the butt that I needed to say, yes, I want to invest in it. What is the first step that an agent needs to do if they say, yep, I this is a market that I want to be into, here's where I want to invest, what do I do first?
Okay. I would say that the first thing that they should do is they should call in and they should call into your office, and they should talk to whoever it is on the sales team they work with on a regular basis. And the first question they ask is, if I'm only going to sell one DSNP product in my market, what product is it? That's
Great
the first question. And here's why I say that. Like, there's a very specific set of steps that I'm setting up here. The carrier reps, like you opened with this, and it was the great thing to open because we're kind of coming all the way back to it now. You talked about how the carrier reps are always saying to you and to Matt and to Rachel and all the other folks on your leadership team, hey, opportunity's huge. Not enough agents working in this market. Let's say you have agent Bob Smith who calls into your office and talks to someone on your team and says, what product is it? And maybe you look at where that agent's based, and the answer is Aetna DSNP is the product for you. What happens next is someone from your team calls up your Aetna broker manager who works in that market and says, hey, I've got Bob Smith. He wants to work in the DSNP market. And in almost every single metro area, those broker managers are tasked with taking agents either to events and teaching them how to do the events, taking them on appointments. The carrier reps will do virtually anything to help show agents in the field how to get this done.
So true.
So that to me is always step one, is how can our business units with integrity across the entire country, how can we leverage those carrier relationships to help the agent get that in-field training that they need? And once they get a feel for that, then it's a question of, okay, let's now work to book these community-based events on our own, and start to work with one product. Because sometimes it's difficult to start working with 5 products all around the same time. But let's focus on one of those products and understand what is the phone number at the carrier that I call to check Medicaid eligibility? What is their benefit setup? What are the key items on how all of this works? And work on selling one of them. And once you get into a flow for that, you're like, holy man, this is easy. Like, I'm not talking about premium. I'm not talking about specialist copays. I'm not talking about tier 3 drug costs. It's just, here's how I can help give you an awesome package of ancillary benefits and in no way, shape, or form change your cost sharing for medical or drug. And then they're hooked.
Yeah. I think it's the whole do it once and see how easy it is. Know that there isn't somebody at the end of this going to rip that sale away or rip that sale away, rip that client from you and go from there. But absolutely, this industry is all about partnerships. This industry, success is all about partnerships. So again, if anybody does have interest and says, yes, this is a market I need to get into, obviously, please call our office and talk to your agent resources representative at 1-800-689-2800, because not only, again, the carriers are, I think, Bill, you said it best, that they're tasked with finding agents who are serious about this and want to invest in agents who are willing to really dive into this market. So excited to talk more about this, excited to be a part of an agent's journey about helping this most at-risk demographic, and this demographic, to your point, Bill, that needs the most love, gives the most referrals, and can make an agent a lot of money in the process while doing great work. So Bill, I can't say enough how much I appreciate your time talking about this, how much I appreciate your experience and your expertise in this, because again, we are one integrity. Our jobs as, working as integrity is to make sure every agent out there has the tools and resources to be successful. This is just another tool, another arrow in that quiver. So thank you today for your time and talking to me about all this stuff.
Hey, it was great to spend some time with you, Olivia, for sure.
I love it. So again, if you guys have any questions, feel free to call a senior marketing specialist. Again, that number is 1-800-689-2800. Again, 1-800-689-2800. We'll see you next time. Thanks.